Today, we are breaking down the biggest winners and losers from college football week number 7. Let's get right into this. Starting out with the superstars of the week. I do this for every single week. If you guys do want to subscribe, feel free to do so on the Patreon. There are far more players than just this, and there are some players that might have wanted to make the cut but just couldn't. So feel free to go over there. $5 a month, and you get to access the full thing of Rookie Watch, which is every NFL rookie, how they performed over the past weeks, and then also all my draft board evaluations, all of that, extended videos as well. Excited to be able to give you guys that. We have a big community starting over there, so thank you for that. Let's get into this. Look at these results. People are making thousands every month betting on sports completely risk-free. The secret? They're using OddsJam. OddsJam isn't just another betting app. It's turning the entire system in your favor. Here's how. OddsJam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds discrepancies across the sports books. You bet both sides, and no matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. If you bet $500 on Boise State to win on FanDuel and $335 on their opponent San Francisco on DraftKings, you're guaranteed to make $50, win or lose. It's that simple. With OddsJam mobile app, you'll get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands of dollars every month. And to get you started, use promo code Hail Mary for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll profit during the trial. And if you don't cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to OddsJam and use promo code Hail Mary and start making money the smart way. With the number one superstar of the week, not in any particular order, Desmond Reid, running back out of Pittsburgh, my RB8 coming into the year, even though he stands at a measly 5'8", 175. This guy passed the eye test in person last year when I saw him versus SMU. He's great. I mean, super dynamic. This past week, 13 carries, 54 yards with 4 missed tackles forced, but that's not where he made an impact. He made an impact being Pitt's leading receiver. 8 targets, 7 receptions, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Let's add that all together on the fly. That is 20 touches for, 200 yards on the dot. That was easy math, as well as 2 touchdowns. Huge performance there for Desmond Reid. I do still think, though, that his build is going to be a little bit intriguing there. I mean, I put the dream fit as Kansas City because I do think that, maybe using him in a Brashard Smith role and allowing Brashard Smith to be a little bit more of the running back style could end up working out a little bit better. But again, don't take those too seriously. They're there more for fun than anything until we start gauging a bit more of an appropriate draft class. But the next player, another Desmond. Actually, I think we have a guy named Demond also coming in. So this is the Desmond/Demond week, but Desmond Purnell, linebacker out of Kansas State, had himself a week. 76 defensive grade, 2 pressures, 3 stops, targeted 9 times, allowing only 2 completions for 40 yards, but had 2 interceptions and 2 pass breakups. Kansas State randomly has dudes pop off all the time, so shout out to the program for being that consistent, but I'm excited to be able to give some love where love is due. Desmond has been actually really reliable over the past couple of weeks, so good for him. Devontae Ross, wide receiver out of Penn State. There's a whole lot going wrong, and I know my boy Suki out there has been dying because he's a Penn State fan. There's been one positive so far. Over the past couple of weeks, Devontae Ross has been on Stock Report, whether it's the video or on the just overall Patreon sheet. He's been on it multiple times now. And he was somebody who I thought was a really solid deep threat coming from Troy. And he's continued to ball out, man. I mean, the team had 137 passing yards this past week. He was targeted 7 times, caught the ball 7 times. So 100% completion on target percentage. 115 yards. Quick maths. I mean, I think that's over 80% of the team's air yardage went through Devontae Ross. That is incredible. I want to see a team like the Broncos utilize him properly. And by utilize him properly, I mean actually get Bo Nix to throw the fucking ball deep. So I'm going to see what happens with Devontae Ross. But he's a little bit of a slender man. We'll see if he ends up testing out very well. But definitely a great prospect there to watch for day 3. Malik Muhammad comes back and balls out. We'll talk about the reason he balled out a little bit more in depth with one of our duds of the week, but comes back and ends up doing a fantastic job. Now, does he go in round 2? Does he go in round 3? I'm not sure. I don't think, based on how Mateer played, hint, that it's going to be the game that people are like, okay, this is solely on him. And there were a lot of interception or a lot of plays, including the interception when he was in the end zone, that were not necessarily because he did a great play. It was because Mateer did something bad. But I still want to give him credit where credit is due. 72 defensive grade, 2 defensive stops, targeted 7 times, allowing 4 completions for 37 yards, had a pair of interceptions and a pass breakup. I mean, at the end of the day, people can be in the right position all the time and end up like getting lucky. But when you get lucky multiple times in the game, I mean, based on how Malik has ended up playing, it's not just solely pure luck. He did a fantastic job. So, big fan of Malik Muhammad. There's probably more of that round 3 type of guy, but stepping up when he ended up coming back, and that is incredible to see. Now, I literally have never done like 2 players simultaneously. I have, but I didn't actually do it both on the graphics, but I do want to give credit to individually each of these guys. David Bailey, Romello Height. So David Bailey this past week at 94 defensive grade, 11 pressures, including 3 sacks and 4 defensive stops. Another week, by the way, where this ended up happening. And again, we all know PFF will probably drop it down to 8 pressures when all is said and done. They're sneaky little bastards like that. I'm going to be honest. It's one of the things I hate the most about PFF. They'll end up posting final grades and then change it again like a week later. Don't even get me started on that. But Romello Height, he also ended up having a 95 defensive grade, 8 pressures, 3 defensive stops, a forced fumble, targeted twice, allowing 2 completions for 6 yards. He actually had a 90 coverage grade as well. But this dynamic duo, and I'm going to take a little victory lap. I ended up saying like this was an incredible pickup, and then also ended up highlighting the fact that, they ended up doing a damn good job by picking up Lee Hunter as well, who actually had a pretty good week, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they had arguably the best edge duo in the country. And just because Ruben Bain and, Akeem Mesidor exist, there's only probably those guys to challenge that. So fantastic grouping. Romello is showing to be probably arguably one of the best pass rushers in the entire country. So we'll see what's all going to be said and done, because he's a little bit more of a DPR when it comes to draft stock. Cameron Dickey, we're staying in Texas Tech, is next. They're running back. He is, I believe, a true sophomore. So not draft eligible, but he ended up having 21 carries for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns with 5 missed tackles forced. Targeted 4 times, getting 3 receptions for 16 yards as well. So grand total 24 touches, 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. So great performance there. Obviously, anybody who gets that type of production gets to be on a superstar of the list, or a superstar of the week. Mansoor Delane as well. I mean, this dude came up huge. If you look at the stats, you say, okay, 78 defensive grade, a pressure, targeted twice, allowing 0 completions, had a couple pass breakups. That would usually get you like fringe superstar level, and like probably going to be more on the stars of the week, which is going to be that next section if you guys are new. But these were in huge moments. I mean, like, that second pass breakup was on a key down, and it was incredible to see. Sticking in coverage, my corner 1 coming into the year, and he has been fantastic. So huge win there for the show as well. Mansoor Delane did a fantastic job. Once again, could end up being a top 10 pick when the draft comes around. Then Demond Williams. So I talked about 2 Desmonds to start out the show. I should have probably organized it to where Demond would have been right after, but we started out early. He was, I believe, a Friday night game, and then ended up being well worth the superstar of the week the whole damn week. 27 throws, 21 completions, 401 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. 1 big time throw with 0 turnover-worthy plays. But here's the thing. 15 carries, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Did have 2 fumbles, so debated whether that would disqualify him from superstar of the week. But the overall performance against Rutgers as well, not a super cupcake team, was fantastic. Well done for the kid who, 5'11", 190 is going to be a little scary for evaluators, but he's showing that he can actually make it work. We'll see if the Cardinals continue to have some issues with Kyler. Maybe they'll end up transferring to somebody of a very similar skill set. And then last but not least, in the superstars of the week, this is a long one. Yes, I ended up choosing to go after, I believe, 10 superstars of the week. It is that good of a week. Is Davison Igbonosen. I thought he deserved a bit more of a shout out. I obviously have been extremely high on Iggy for the past couple of years. Might be past 3, I think 2. But regardless, I'm still somebody who's a big believer in Igbonosen. Ended up showing out this week for Ohio State. 75 defensive grade, targeted 7 times, allowing only 1 completion for 6 yards, and had a pair of pass breakups. Fantastic performance by Iggy there. And so let's get into the stars of the week. Again, there's going to be 20 of these guys too. So it's an actual 30 fully loaded slate. John Henry Daly, he is super familiar on this show based on the fact that I've talked about him a billion times. This past week, a 67 defensive grade, 6 pressures, and 4 defensive stops. Just a reliable threat there for Utah. Not sure how much that's going to be translatable to the NFL, but in terms of college performance, he's been doing a fantastic job. Tao Johnson, defensive back out of Utah. He ended up having a fantastic week as well. 61 defensive grade, 3 pressures, 2 stops, targeted 4 times, allowing 0 receptions. And Arvell Reese was supposed to be superstar of the week, but I'm just trying to find ways to, first off, quell my excitement for Arvell Reese. But secondly, and more importantly, not have a billion superstars of the week and make it a little bit more important. But 64 defensive grade, 4 pressures, 2 of them being sacks on 11 pass rushing reps, 4 defensive stops, targeted 4 times, 4 receptions for 33 yards. So only reason he did not make it is because of that into the superstar category, but this guy has been absolutely dynamite. I want to see what his arm length is, because there's very well might be a Jalen Walker situation where Arvell Reese is going to be more built to be the edge rusher over the pure linebacker. But, a spoiler alert for the other guys, Braylon Lovelace as well, linebacker of Pittsburgh. I don't know what they're putting in the water there. I don't know what type of Wheaties they're feeding the linebackers at Pitt. Every week, it's a new motherfucker. Every week. I'm like, y'all, can one guy just be good rather than all of them? But they're doing an amazing job there. 77 defensive grades, 6 pressures, 6 stops, and targeted 1 completion for 16 yards. Again, fantastic performance by another Pitt linebacker. It just feels like we just got to get used to it at this point. I mean, Pitt linebackers should be on this list every single week. But next we have Cam Robertson, edge rusher from SMU. Got to see him in person. He's been balling out all year long. He's been a very unsung hero of SMU's defense. The only reason we've been really semi-effective on defense. But 59 defensive grade, 7 pressures, and 3 defensive stops. So there's going to be somebody that I'm not going to mention from Nebraska. He's Nwaneri, I believe is his name. He ended up getting 8 pressures this week. There's a couple other guys who would get like 6 or 7 pressures on their own. I want to see production on both the run defense side as well as the pass rush. So when I'm having to debate, those are the first guys that get kicked off. Chris Johnson Jr. as well, running back from SMU. Consistency-wise, not there, but the dude ended up lighting it up on some big plays. Huge home run, touchdown run, and then also had an amazing after-the-catch move for a touchdown this past week. 5 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown, 2 missed tackles forced, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 42 yards and a touchdown as well. The dude's so fun to watch, but consistency needs to get there, and the workload, it needs to match it. Eric McAllister, also pretty common on the show at this point. He was my wide receiver, I think 20 coming into the year, which I've never heard of anybody liking Eric McAllister more than me, but I'm excited to see maybe more people get on that hype train. 6 targets, 4 receptions, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Not his performance versus SMU, but still a fantastic performance nonetheless. Mikhail Kamara, edge rusher out of Indiana this past week, had a really good week, and they're stuffing of Oregon and tearing them down. 74 defensive grade, 6 pressures, and 2 stops. Tatum Tuioti, though, on the other side of the ball, for Oregon, ended up having a great game as well. 77 defensive grade, 6 pressures, 2 stops, and a forced fumble. And then Brandon Finney Jr., even though I honestly think that he was a little bit too grabby, dude's super young. 84 defensive grade, defensive stop, targeted 4 times, allowing 1 reception for 13 yards and an interception. Let's continue on, though, because we are not just stopping there for our stars of the week, starting out with the Elijah Surratt. Another week where he ended up being a winner of the week, ended up pretty much backpacking his team. There's some other guys who probably should have been able to make it statistically more, but Elijah Surratt really was the unsung hero of this game. Ended up being targeted 12 times, getting 8 receptions for 121 yards and a touchdown, while the team only had 215 yards. So over half of the air production went through Elijah Surratt. He has been fantastic. Caden Salter as well. I mean, he's been Up and down for the most part. Obviously, some quarterback drama there in the middle of the year, but 25 throws, 16 completions, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 4 big time throws, 0 turnover worthy plays, 12 carries, 49 yards, and 3 missed tackles forced. In a game versus Iowa State, I believe that ended up being, pretty damn close. Having 4 big time throws, 0 turnover worthy plays is really, really awesome to see. Abu Sama, the third running back for Iowa State, is the only reason they ended up being in the game. 24 carries, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 6 missed tackles forced, and did not haul in the one throw that was targeted his way. Emmett Johnson, running back from Nebraska. So we got some more running backs on here. 21 carries, 176 yards, 11 missed tackles forced, targeted twice, got 2 receptions for 20 yards. So grand total, 23 touches, 196 yards. And again, 11 missed tackles forced is awesome. That's the reason he made it onto this list. So great job there for Emmett Johnson. CJ Allen as well. I'm so used to clicking through. CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. He ended up having a really good game and ended up being the top graded linebacker of the week. 88 defensive grade, a pressure, a sack, 6 defensive stops, and targeted 4 times, getting 3 receptions on him for 22 yards. Ended up adding in a pass breakup as well. So production on the ground, or the run game, through the pass game, as well as through rushing the passer. Really happy about that. Dalen Everett also had a really solid week. 67 defensive grade, 3 defensive stops, targeted 10 times, allowing 5 receptions for 35 yards, and ended up having 3 pass breakups. Bishop Fitzgerald, honestly, he's been a nominee for this list several times. 68 defensive grade, a pressure, 2 defensive stops, targeted 3 times, allowing 2 completions for 27 yards, and had 2 interceptions. Whit Weeks is next. Ended up having a 58 defensive grade, 6 pressures, 5 stops, targeted 5 times, allowing 4 receptions for 24 yards. Bottom line, he's a splash player. He's super fun to watch. Tamarcus Cooley is next, defensive back from LSU. Technically graded higher than Mansoor, Delane, and performed statistically better, but I just thought that there's more to be given to Mansoor, Delane in terms of the big moments that, you could just say both of them are fantastic. How about that? 81 defensive grade, a defensive stop, targeted 3 times, allowing 1 reception for 4 yards, had an interception and 2 pass breakups. And then last but not least, I'm not going to say this right, Siale Azera, linebacker out of BYU. He ended up having a 79 defensive grade, 3 pressures, 7 defensive stops, targeted once, got 0 completions on him, and a pass breakup. So really good performance. But this is the more exciting part of the episode. Talking about the duds. John Mateer coming out. I talked about this yesterday on the Mock, and I'm going to let the majority of the rant be there. Feel free to check that out. But John Mateer coming back, rushing back from hand surgery, was the dumbest decision I think I've seen from a football player in terms of their health. I don't get it. I really don't. Your team was doing fine. They would have ended up being in a still perfectly fine situation if he did not come back. And it was so obvious he's not playing healthy. I think he should return to school. I think it was so damning that unless he has a Hall of Fame level end of the year, he should go back to school. Like, it is that damning. And I also think he needs to go back to that surgeon and make sure that ligament is fine, because he's bleeding out of his thumb. Like, how stupid. I mean, first off, John Mateer, you're dumb as fuck for doing that. Secondly, where's the guidelines for all of this within the Oklahoma organization? Who thought this was perfectly fine? Who? Ended up throwing 38 times, 20 completions, 202 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 0 big time throws, 4 turnover-worthy plays, 9 carries, 37 yards, a fumble with 2 missed tackles forced. Who did not speak up in the Oklahoma organization? Whoever is managing the health of their players needs a seriously long evaluation, because this is damning. You should not rush back your quarterback 17 days, if I'm not mistaken, after he got a hand surgery against an unranked Texas. To me, that's a near fireable offense. I mean, legitimately, first off, praying to God that there's no long-term damage to Mateer's hand. It feels very RG3-esque, where they're not healthy, but this is a big game, so he needs to play in it. Fucking ridiculous. I mean, this is a human right here. Humans make mistakes, but that doesn't leave them free of the consequences. I think whoever managed this and ended up greenlighting it, unless it was the surgeon himself, they should legitimately consider it. I mean, genuinely. This was just an absolute mismanagement of player health. John Mateer is a potential top 10 pick that you're rushing back from injury to play in unranked Texas. Dude's bleeding from his finger, throws 0 big-time throws against a defense that, if healthy, I am confident he could have done a pretty damn good job. There you go. I said I was going to leave it all for that other video, but fuck it. It really pisses me off because obviously I love John Mateer, how he performed this year so far until now, and it's just like, dude, like, you're pissing on my cornflakes, bro. I mean, you're pissing in his cornflakes too. It's John Mateer's fault as well. I mean, he needs to have some like self-awareness. It's like, dude, the best ability is availability. Make sure you're healthy, and your team is performing fine without you for the meantime. It's like those dudes when they end up like getting sick and they get like worried that their girlfriend is gonna like start loving somebody else because they can't hang out with them. It's like, dude, like if she really finds somebody else in like the week or so that you're sick, you have bigger issues on your hands. But Austin Barber is next, offensive tackle out of Florida. End up having an ass week, a 0 pass blocking grade with 4 pressures allowed. Just bottom line, that's unacceptable. I thought of him as a guard. I still think of him as a guard. And he continues to prove that he is not an NFL tackle. So very happy about that in terms of the evaluation side. Not happy about the fact that Austin's just not putting out good football tape. Dante Moore is next. Very easily could have put almost every single quarterback on planet Earth on this list. And for those of y'all who are wondering if LaNorris Sellers should be on here, he was the number 11th guy on the duds of the week. So he did not make it, but he was very narrowly missing this list because I did see a lot more of the surrounding cast and the play calling being an issue. With this situation for Dante Moore, there were no big-time throws. Let's go through the stats. 34 throws, 21 completions, 186 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. 0 big-time throws. I'm going to disagree. I mean, I feel like the deep throw was a big-time throw. At the same time, it is a guy who's pretty much wide open deep. Still, I'm going to give him some credit where credit's due. But 2 turnover-worthy plays. If you start out red hot and then you get really cold in a game that matters, and again, we're weighing so heavily what he did versus Penn State, which went to overtime. And then that team lost to UCLA and Northwestern back-to-back. I'm not saying that this is a fraud by any stretch of the imagination. I really like Dante Moore. By the way, 3 carries for 8 yards and a fumble. I do think PFF got the 0 big-time throws down incorrect. But the big thing about Dante Moore is that in a game where the other team did not perform necessarily well, he did not rise up to the occasion. And he's still showing that he's very young. And he is very young. We are trying to force him into this instant number 1 pick mold when the guy is not even 210 pounds, when he has not enough starts under his belt, and he's going to be perfectly fine. But his performance this week did not help. So I will say the last interception was the thing that put the nail in the coffin and put it on here. You know, just forcing a pass with 2 defenders in very close range and a short pass too for the game-winning interception or game-losing interception. It does bother me. But at the same time, do I think he's a bad quarterback? No. I think people who are saying that are overreacting. But I do think his performance was like definitely one where you're like, are you ready? And might not be. This is another performance I really didn't like. Rocco Becht. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, this quarterback class has gotten very scary. Guys who are not developing, which, I mean, you'd expect at least some development, but yeah, it's gotten pretty bad. Rocco is somebody who I had some hope for. 33 throws, 18 completions, 205 yards, 0 touchdowns, an interception, 0 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, 7 carries, 34 yards, and a fumble. When you listen to that, it's like, well, that's somebody who should be on the bottom of, like, definitely a loser of the week, but maybe not like a dud. I want you to remember like 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, because I ranted about Mateer for a minute. Just think about Abu Sama's performance, 177 yards on the ground. This motherfucker could not throw a big-time throw or a touchdown or remotely get close to, keeping his team afloat when his running back dominated on the ground. And these motherfuckers lost. I'll just put that out there. Not a fan of that. So next we got Aidan Chiles. He's back on here. Got injured again. Dude gets blown up. Like, Michigan State, please protect this man. But on top of that, when he was in 17 throws, 8 completions, 66 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, and 5 carries, 19 yards, and a touchdown, but also had a fumble. So it's just like, man. I mean, just back-to-back weeks getting absolutely blown up. Once again, stop playing players if they're not healthy. But at the same time, this is a little bit of a different situation than Mateer by actually a pretty big magnitude. It's just like, Aidan, are you made of glass? I think he's going to return to school, though. Talk about the rest of the stock down, guys. Bud Clark, he's been on the pluses. He's been on the minuses. Very erratic safety, but ended up having a 60 defensive grade, 2 receptions allowed on 3 targets, 44 yards, and both of those targets were touchdowns. Caleb Downs, crazy to see him on here. But dude ended up getting kind of routed up this past week. 55 defensive grade, second worst on the team, 4 defensive stops, and 8 targets, 7 receptions, 52 yards. Darrell Jackson is next. Very underwhelming performance, 60 defensive grade, 2 defensive stops, no production as a pass rusher. Bo Pribula ended up having a pretty poor week this week versus Bama, in my opinion. 28 throws, 16 completions, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 0 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays, 8 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown, but a fumble. And again, last play of the game with that interception had Marquise Johnson wide open. So just going to be real there. Not a fan of that. But then we end up going to Amari Farrell, defensive back out of Indiana, 61 defensive grade, 2 defensive stops, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Allowed, by the way. Like, not him getting the touchdown, but, just, again, no production as a pass defender. Then we end up going to Alex Harkey, tackle out of Oregon. There's an adjustment period, but it's starting to get a little bit more worrisome here. 50 pass blocking grade with 5 pressures allowed. In a key game, is a little bit worrisome. Chris Brazzell, wide receiver out of Tennessee, ended up having 4 targets for 1 reception, 5 yards, and a drop. People are absolutely glazing this man. In my opinion, a little bit too much, but has noticeably improved this year. But again, when you get 1 reception for 5 yards and have a drop, I'm going to put you on this list. Jair Hill, cornerback out of Michigan, another player who I was pretty low on coming into the year, ended up having a 62 defensive grade, targeted 7 times, allowing 6 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. Enrique Cruz Jr., right tackle out of Kansas. We put him on this list a ton of times. He went up against the best edge duo in the country, maybe besides Miami. 0 pass blocking grade, 4 pressures allowed. So same stat as Austin Barber. And then Chase Roberts, my Pookie Bear from BYU. He's had some very good games this year, but 6 targets, 2 receptions, 25 yards, and then 2 drops. So not a fan of that. One thing I will note, because I know already more people are going to be talking about LaNorris Sellers. I'll drop this one other thing in there. The dude had like 11 missed tackles forced on like 13 carries. You got to at least show some respect for the ground game. He's showing at least something there while also having a pretty garbage team outside of him and Nick Harbor. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching, showing the support you always do. Love you. See you later. Peace.